We are back for another episode of Dolphin Tales. Sitkins, Scott Manze here with Jamey Salmon, the head coach of the JU men's golf team. Jamey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, we were talking early before we started recording just how you came on last year and more on the coaching angle over Zoom because of COVID. So getting you here, a little bit of a different slant today in person. And more talking about your time here as a student athlete. So again, thanks for coming on. Scott, you want to start off?
Yeah, it's interesting. We hear a lot about JU and what makes it unique, right? And you're one of a couple of grads that are coaches here. But what is kind of the pull of this university to you?
I think it's the family atmosphere. It's the everybody wanting to help everybody and be a part of things on campus. I certainly felt that when I was a player here. The athletic department, the university as a whole, professors, Tim Cost, the president, the other coaches, they like being here. This is not just your normal mid-major stepping platform that coaches use to go to the next level. They enjoy their time here. They enjoy JU. They enjoy the beautiful campus. They enjoy all the support they receive from the other faculty, staff members, and other coaches. And it's really a great place for players and coaches alike to feel at home, grow their craft, and continue to improve at what they do. And it's just something that myself being from Jacksonville, I love being here as a student, and it's really just something I love doing every day, being a golf coach here as well.
You had mentioned earlier, we were talking how you didn't start playing golf till later on. Most kids start, and they're 4-year-old and they've got their little plastic clubs and stuff like that. You said you were actually coming out to Terry Alexander baseball camps and then transitioned to golf. So tell me a little bit about just what it means to you to have come here for so long, to eventually become a student athlete, to play golf here, to come back. I mean, how does that all feel to you today?
It's a pretty neat experience. Like you were just mentioning earlier, we were talking, I played baseball until I was about, almost 14 years old. And baseball over Jacksonville, played travel ball. And some friends of mine when I was probably 8, 9, 10 said, we're going to go to the Terry Alexander baseball camp at JU. I said, okay, well, I don't really know who Terry Alexander is at the time, but, I'm 9 years old, but that sounds like a lot of fun. So I came 2 or 3 years in a row and had a blast. And it was neat getting to work with the student athletes at the baseball camps and the coaches and being a part of that. And then just kind of phased out of baseball and went to the golf course for the first time with my dad, kind of fell in love and did it every day until a couple years ago when I quit playing professionally. So it's been awesome to be a part of JU and see how things have developed and how everything's changed and come about. There's just been so many changes on campus, how things have grown athletically and academically, structure-wise on campus. For me, it's always felt like home, and it's just great to be a part of that.
You guys must have missed each other, not by much. I mean, you probably worked the camps, right?
We were trying to figure out, I think he may have been at some of the camps I worked, so
Okay.
I was memorable enough to not be remembered. So.
I don't know. The pitchers are usually over there trying to have a good time, right? I mean, it's not like you're sitting there teaching them how to field the ground balls.
It's true. I was throwing BP probably. So.
PFPs aren't really going on in camp, I don't think. Let's go back to your golf journey. I mean,
Okay.
what kind of triggered it for you? What created the interest, and at what point did you realize, I think this is it. I kind of love this.
As far as like a professional way, coaching?
No, just playing golf in general.
Okay. That first time I went to the driving range, I remember it was at a little old Donald Ross that I grew up down the street from called Hyde Park with my dad, and he was like, hey, you should come to the driving range today. And I was thinking, well, that sounds boring at the time. And I went and hit a couple golf shots, and it's that moment that every beginner golfer has where you hit one really nicely down the middle, and you're like, oh, well, I could get used to this. So then you go again, and then you just keep going every single day. And then it got to a point where my parents would kind of just drop me off after school every day, and then I would stay till dark, and then they would show up at dark, pick me up, and take me home. And that continued until I went off to college to play here at JU. And I was not the best junior player or even the best college player the first couple of years. And then after my sophomore year, going into junior year, I just kind of had a breakout moment where I started to figure things out and went from averaging, I think, like 75 or 6 early in my career to averaging under par my junior year, spent most of the year inside the top 100. So it was just kind of neat to see that progression. And then after college, I wasn't sure if I was going to turn pro or not. Wasn't sure if I wanted to try it. Spent a couple years here as Mike's assistant, and then just had a couple good months of good golf, playing amateur golf after that second year during college. And then right after college, and just decided that I'd give it a shot. And my first event as a pro, went and got status on the McKenzie Tour at Q School. So that was pretty neat, and that was an awesome experience, getting to be a part of that and PGA Tour Latino America over the years. So it was a great experience. It's a lot of travel and a lot of airports and a lot of Chipotle and Subways and peanut butter sandwiches, but it's a fun journey for sure.
With that experience, I know a lot of coaches at the collegiate level have played, at higher levels, whether it be, high level collegiately or gone on to professional in any sport. But specifically with you having that experience here, what experience as being a student athlete do you bring to being a coach?
I think when you've been a student athlete in the sport that you're coaching, you have a good idea of obviously the what to do's and what not to do's. And you have good experience from seeing other players that have had success around you, other players that you have coached when you get there that have success. So I think you have a good idea of what you're looking at, and then when you've been able to play professionally in that sport as well, you have a much better idea whether you've made it to the top level or not, but you've been around those guys that have, and you see the things they do day in and day out, the little things they do, how they carry themselves, how they manage their time, how they're organized. So that's one of the biggest things I instill in our guys is organization, discipline, and hard work. So, we're working for our guys to be a set of grinders. And not only does that help us play better when it comes college tournament time, I think that truly prepares them for professional golf and or life, whatever they're looking to accomplish or whatever they end up doing after school.
You feel like that because you played specifically here, like you're able to impart to recruits, players, exactly what it takes to succeed here at this particular institution?
I think it gives me a fairly good idea on that for sure. Like I said, not only I had some success here and then some success after college, but I've had some teammates over the years that have been very successful as well. Some guys that I coached as an assistant before that have been very successful. And it's kind of funny, when I first started here as head coach, we had some other coaches that were being brought on board. And they were kind of feeling their way around campus a little bit, and I offered to give a couple of them a tour, and they said, "Oh, well, you've only been here for 6 months. How do you know campus?" I was like, "Well, I played here. I've been a coach here before," and I gave a couple of those coaches some tours, and they were like, "Well, we did the campus tour the other day, and this was like eye-opening compared to that. That was like the 5-minute version, and this was the 2-hour version." I said, "Yeah, I've picked up a few things over the years of playing here and coaching here, so it's kind of neat to see, like I said, how it's grown, but still all the bones that were here before are still here."
Yeah, sure. And we were talking about just the growth, and we've mentioned it a few times in different episodes. But when you and I were talking, the fact that behind us here, this used to be a little 9-hole, and this was before you were playing here. That was gone. Then you've transformed over there. Why don't you talk just a little bit about that facility in particular? Because to have that experience and walking people around, like, the history of this place, not just, well, this is the sand volleyball and this is the river house. What it's taken to get these things, not just to look the way they are, but to actually get them built in the first place.
Correct. Yeah, it's like it's really awesome to see the university continue to grow, like what they're doing with the new basketball practice facility. That's always just been an overgrown side of the hill behind softball, and they leveled it and spent all that time.
Parking lot, even.
Yeah, the one that was kind of like you had to move a fence post to get in and out of it.
Yeah. Damaged a bumper in that lot many years ago.
Mm-hmm. But it's awesome what they're doing with that. But what we did with the Swisher Golf Practice Facility was, when I was in school here, it was essentially the campus dump. It had everything from broken down buildings to, we pulled old car frames out of the ground, refrigerators, microwaves, anything you could think of that had been removed from a building on campus was down there in a grown-up jungle. It was my senior year of college. Our director of golf, Mike Blackburn, who was my head coach at the time, got Swisher International to donate the money to build that facility. And it was kind of one of those things where we probably needed about $500,000 to get the job done, but we were able to secure $350,000. So a lot of it was going to be done by us. So he knew I'd had some experience working at a golf course and kind of moving around some heavy machinery and stuff. So he said, hey, Ring Power's donating them the machines we need to move this dirt. Can you and I move this and shape it? I said, sure, it might take a month, but they dropped off a backhoe, skidster, dump truck, everything we were going to need to make it happen. And he and I leveled the place, cleared it, moved it all out. And once we got everything level, then the golf company was able to come in and shape the greens, form them, plant all the grass. And it's been neat to see it transform over the years. And it's an unbelievable asset and resource for our guys to be able to walk 2 minutes from their dorm, break out a bucket of Pro Vs out of the shed and go to work for as long as they need to.
And that's not the only thing. I mean, that was a big step in the right direction, but the golf programs collectively have even grander visions for stuff in the future. I mean, can you elaborate a little bit on what you all are working on right now to try and keep the experience at that super high level for both the men's and women's golf programs here?
Definitely. We're in the process of finishing up fundraising on the Swisher Golf Performance Center. So our friends at Swisher International are going to continue to be some of our biggest supporters for men and women's golf and the growth of our programs. And what we're doing with that, it's about a 5,000 square foot building that's going to be built just beside our practice facility. That's going to have a place for the teams to have locker rooms, hitting bays, putting green, common area, and a gym as well. So the student athletes will finally have a place on campus to call home. We're one of the sports on campus where we don't really have a dire need for a locker room, so we don't currently have one. But it will be nice for the student athletes, men and women, to be able to put their golf club somewhere other than their dorm room or their trunk. And if they want to go have some time to study, they don't have to meet in study hall to do it. They can go down there and do it. If they want to hit some balls at 9 o'clock at night because we don't have lights on our facility, they can use the hitting bays. It'll have a nice little place indoor and outdoor for them to cook, so they can take a little bit better advantage of being able to do that on campus if they don't live in the apartments. But it's kind of the next step for us that's differentiating us being able to compete with the big boys on a regular basis. While there are other factors that play into that, recruiting and all that fun stuff that everybody deals with.
Yeah.
It's what the successful non-Power 5 mid-majors in golf have that we don't have yet. So we're getting really close. We're excited on that. Still a work in progress. We're about 2/3 of the way there financially, but we're still working hard to get to there.
That's excellent. Yeah, and you mentioned recruiting and having the experience of being a student athlete here, but I've also got to imagine just being a Florida school, that's got to help. To be able to play golf all year round. Are you guys pulling a lot of local talent? Or are you bringing people? What's the mix of the team right now?
So we've had a few guys that have been local over the years. Unfortunately, that's something that we're still kind of breaking into the market on. JU has not historically been the biggest brand for golf in Florida. And that's just been a combination of things over the years. It's something that we're working hard to continue to do. Currently, the good local guys, the solid local guys that we would like to have come, wear green and play for JU, are tending to choose Florida, Florida State, UCF, and UNF over us, which at times definitely makes sense because they're usually ranked somewhere between 25 and 50, and we're between 55 and 75. So that's something we're working hard on. We haven't really broken into that market like we were hoping for yet, but we've had a lot of success with international players, guys that I play professionally with that are running golf academies internationally. Usually, like when we have one player come from Mexico, he always ends up having a best friend that's just as good, if not better, from Mexico. Or if we have a freshman from the Czech this year, he's helping us secure a few other internationals, friend of friends for following years, which has been nice. And we've had some good success bringing in some transfers as well, especially with the guys that are using that post-grad fifth year with COVID right now. Like we have a young man that you guys did a podcast with the other day, Grant Hafner, transferred from Wayne State Division II school. Grant's a tremendous player and unbelievable young man. But it's been neat to see somebody that's 24 years old go to a new school for the first time, and him come in and kind of instantly step in as the team leader, team captain, and his kind of wisdom helped the younger guys out so much. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic to see all the personalities, different parts of the world, different ages, different cultures. So it's always a neat, kind of blending pattern amongst the guys.
You have a story from the last couple of years of maybe a unique moment involving the diversity on your team? I mean, I remember us talking even last year on the podcast, and you talked, when unfortunately when everyone was at home, you were having to coordinate your schedules to check in with them based off of what time zone they were living in at the time, and it was literally all day long type deal because they were spread out all over the world. But having such a unique mix of personalities and backgrounds, what does that look like for this team?
It's been interesting. You hear terms and phrases that half the team laughs at, and then you're thinking to yourself, what in the world could that possibly mean? And it's funny. Our young man from Czech speaks 4 languages. Our player from France, Alex, 3 languages. So we've got about 4 guys that English is either their second, third, or fourth language. So it's neat. And then we've got 3 guys from the UK that speak some sort of London slang that makes no sense to anyone. And when the 3 of them get going at each other, it's always entertaining. You don't really know what they're saying, but it always definitely seems like it's funny. So everybody tends to laugh. But there's always some interesting moments. It's COVID has caused some interesting travel situations for the guys. We were just down in the Bahamas about a month ago, so that was entertaining, getting everybody health visas, making sure everybody's travel country was allowed to travel to the Bahamas. We had a couple of hang-ups getting back into the U.S. with a couple of the guys that had some countries they had visited in Europe that were on a level 5 list that they had a bunch of questions that were asked on, and it was an interesting time coming back.
Sounds like it.
Keeping enough paperwork to get 7 people in and out of the country was quite interesting for me. I've done it for myself all over the world, which is usually pretty easy. You show a passport and then you walk into the country. But it was quite more challenging with that many different countries and the guys that have been all over the world before they came here.
Jamey, so just my last question for you is, being sort of halfway through the season, at least splitting at the break now, what are you most looking forward to coming into the spring?
I'm looking for the boys to break out confidence-wise. My assistant and I, Eric Holcomb, have been sitting back and we've been watching this group of guys work harder than I've ever had a group of guys work. They've been more dedicated. Team culture is above and beyond where we ever thought it would go. And it's been neat to see all of them develop and mature over the last couple of years. And we've kind of reached that point where everything's going the way it's supposed to be going, except the production. And it's kind of, we're at a point where there's not really much he and I can do other than prep them when we're at home. But when we get to events, it's just going to be, as soon as they start to believe that they're as good as they are, it's going to be a bit scary for everybody because it's just a matter of time before they break out. And it's going to be a kind of light the world on fire breakout moment. So it's kind of neat. It's the first time I've had that experience as a coach. We've always had some pretty good rosters, and we've had some guys that have played a little better than they should and some guys that played worse than they should. And this is the first time where we've had 6, 7, 8 guys that could all be in the lineup. They're all pushing each other, and each one of them scared to miss a day because they think they might lose a little something on the guy they're standing next to. And it's an exciting culture to create.
Well, undeniably, the men's golf program has seen amazing success on a national stage even over the last 5 to 10 years, and we look forward to what that looks like continuing to go forward. Hopefully a conference championship and what goes along with that. Jamey Salmon, thanks for joining us here on Dolphin Tales today, and best of luck the rest of the year.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.